Think a penny's only worth 1 cent? Think again. Some Lincoln pennies, like the 1943 steel or 1955 double die, can sell for hundreds or even thousands. Check those coins before you spend them. The 1973 Lincoln 1-cent penny might look like an ordinary coin to most people, but for collectors and numismatic enthusiasts, it represents one of the most intriguing and valuable years in modern U.S. coinage history. The pennies from 1973, especially those with striking minting errors, have become some of the most sought-after finds in the Lincoln cent series. Some of these rare error coins have fetched staggering prices at auctions, with values ranging anywhere from $62,110 to $141,140, depending on the rarity and condition of the coin. The Lincoln cent has always been one of the most beloved coins in American history, first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. By 1973, the design by Victor David Brenner was still proudly displayed on the obverse, showing Lincoln's profile with the words, "In God we trust," arching above his head, "Liberty" to the left, and the date, 1973, to the right. The reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, featured the iconic image of the Lincoln Memorial, where if you look closely, you can see a tiny statue of Lincoln sitting inside, an artistic detail admired by collectors for decades. But what makes the 1973 penny so captivating isn't just its design. It's the incredible range of minting errors that occurred that year. During the early 1970s, the U.S. Mint was striking billions of coins annually, and with such massive production came a higher likelihood of mistakes. Those mistakes, known as mint errors, have turned some of these 1-cent coins into treasures worth tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. One of the most famous error types from 1973 is the double die obverse. On these coins, parts of the lettering and numbers appear to be doubled due to a misalignment during the die-making process. Collectors can easily spot this error by examining the date, 1973, and the word "Liberty," where the doubling effect is most visible. These double die pennies are extremely rare, and their values have skyrocketed over the years. A sharp, uncirculated 1973 double die penny was sold for an impressive $14,700 at heritage auctions, while another in slightly lower grade fetched $9,850. In pristine condition with full red luster, such coins can reach well above $20,000, making them one of the top targets for Lincoln cent collectors. Another fascinating type of error from 1973 is the off-center strike. This occurs when the blank planchet is not properly centered under the dies during striking, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing. The more off-center the strike, the higher the value, especially if the date remains visible. A 1973 penny struck about 70% off-center with the date intact recently sold for $4,200, while an even more dramatic example showing only half of Lincoln's face reached $5,750 at auction. The broad strike error is also known to appear on some 1973 Lincoln cents. This happens when the coin is struck without the retaining collar, causing the metal to spread outward and create a wider, flatter coin. These errors are visually striking and can fetch hundreds or even thousands depending on their condition and the sharpness of the design. A flawless example of a broad-struck 1973 penny sold for $2,850, demonstrating how even subtle minting anomalies can turn ordinary coins into prized collectibles. There are also cases of clipped planchet errors, where a portion of the coin's edge is missing due to a misfeed during the blank cutting process. These errors are relatively easy to identify because of their curved or straight missing edge. A 1973 penny with a dramatic curved clip and full detail sold for $3,200, while another featuring a straight clip with strong luster fetched $2,750. Perhaps the most fascinating and valuable error from this year is the off-metal strike, coins that were mistakenly struck on the wrong type of metal blank. A few 1973 Lincoln cents are known to have been struck on dime or foreign coin planchets, making them incredibly rare. One such example, a 1973 penny struck on a silver-colored dime planchet, weighing less than the standard copper penny, stunned bidders when it sold for $18,900. Another off-metal penny struck on a bronze planchet meant for another denomination brought $24,500 at auction. Among all these errors, the missing clad layer or incomplete plating error stands out as one of the rarest and most eye-catching. Although 1973 pennies were primarily made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, transitional or experimental errors sometimes occurred during the preparation of the planchets, resulting in coins that had an uneven or missing surface layer. These unusual reddish-gold-colored pennies have fetched impressive sums, with one pristine example reaching $7,800 and another crossing the $10,000 mark. For collectors seeking perfection, high-grade 1973 Lincoln pennies with exceptional luster, full strike details, and no signs of wear can also command incredible prices even without visible errors. Because most of these coins entered circulation immediately, finding one in mint state condition is exceedingly difficult. In 2021, a stunning MS-67 red graded by PCGS sold for $62,110, while another near-flawless MS-68 red example stunned the numismatic world by achieving $78,500. These coins prove that even ordinary 1973 pennies can bring extraordinary returns if preserved in impeccable condition. And then there are the legendary proof-like and experimental error coins, specimens that escaped into circulation by mistake. Although no special mint sets were issued that year, a handful of coins struck with highly polished dies have shown mirror-like finishes. These rare, proof-like 1973 Lincoln cents have fetched tens of thousands of dollars. One such coin, verified by NGC as having an ultra-deep cameo effect, shocked bidders when it realized $141,140, the highest known sale price for a 1973 penny to date. Collectors often look for the small but powerful details that can make a huge difference in value. Coins with strong strike details in Lincoln's hair, a clear FG initials on the reverse, and rich original red toning tend to attract higher bids. Some varieties from the Denver Mint, bearing the D mint mark, have shown minor repunched mint marks, RPMs. Another favorite among variety collectors, a 1973 D penny with a clearly repunched mint mark fetched $6,200, and examples showing die cracks or cuds, raised metal caused by die breaks, have brought between $2,000 and $3,500 every year. New discoveries continue to surface as more people check their old change jars, inherited coin boxes, or thrift store finds. The thrill of discovering a rare error penny from 1973 keeps the excitement alive in the coin collecting community. While billions of pennies were produced that year, the combination of condition, mint errors, and striking variations make only a handful truly special. It's important for collectors to authenticate their finds through reputable grading services such as PCGS or NGC. Certification not only confirms a coin's authenticity but also provides a professional grade that significantly increases its market value. A raw 1973 error penny might fetch a few $1,000s, but once certified, it could easily multiply in value, especially if it's a top-grade example or a unique error. The story of the 1973 Lincoln 1-cent penny reminds us that even the smallest denomination can carry immense history, intrigue, and hidden value. What was once worth just a single cent could now be worth tens of thousands of dollars. From $62,110 to $141,140. These remarkable coins show that in the world of numismatics, rarity, condition, and error type can transform an everyday coin into a genuine treasure. So, if you ever come across a 1973 penny with something unusual, perhaps the lettering looks doubled, part of the coin seems off-center, or the color appears strange, don't ignore it. Take a closer look because you might be holding one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever struck. And who knows, that tiny coin sitting in your hand could be worth more than a luxury car or even a house, proving once again that the beauty of collecting lies in the unexpected discoveries hidden in plain sight. The 1976 Lincoln 1-cent penny might appear as just another small piece of copper tucked away in your pocket or an old jar. But in the world of coin collecting, some of these coins have taken the spotlight in incredible ways. The year 1976 was not just the nation's bicentennial celebration. It was also a time when the U.S. Mint faced massive coin production demands. With billions of pennies struck that year, a few remarkable minting errors slipped through the cracks, errors that have since become some of the most valuable and sought-after Lincoln cents among collectors today. Certain rare examples of the 1976 Lincoln penny error have sold for jaw-dropping amounts, ranging from $56,300 to $128,900, depending on their rarity and condition. The 1976 Lincoln penny features the familiar bust of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, which first appeared in 1909 to commemorate Lincoln's 100th birthday. The reverse still carried the iconic Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, which had been introduced in 1959. By 1976, the penny was composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, a composition that collectors still appreciate today for its durability and classic appearance. However, what truly makes the 1976 issue so fascinating are the remarkable mistakes that occurred during its production, creating coins that tell an entirely different story. One of the most notable varieties is the 1976 Lincoln penny double die obverse, where the letters and numbers on the front of the coin appear doubled, especially in Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date. This doubling happened because of a misalignment during the die creation process, and when it was struck, it gave the coin a distinct and eye-catching appearance. Collectors have paid thousands for sharp, high-grade examples of this variety. One stunning red, uncirculated 1976 double die penny-graded MS66RD by PCGS sold for $4,850 at auction, while a similar coin with even bolder doubling fetched $7,100, proving just how much collectors value these small but striking differences. But the real surprises come with more dramatic minting blunders. For instance, off-center strikes from 1976 can be incredibly valuable. When the planchet wasn't correctly centered in the press during minting, parts of the design were missing or misaligned. The more dramatic the misalignment, the higher the coin's value. A 1976 penny struck about 70% off-center with a full visible date sold for $3,200, while a 50% off-center example brought in $2,400. The appeal comes from their uniqueness. No two off-center errors look exactly alike, and collectors love that unpredictability. Another fascinating error is the 1976 penny struck on a dime planchet, which means a penny was accidentally struck on a smaller, thinner dime metal blank. This kind of wrong planchet error results in a coin that is lighter, slightly smaller, and often missing portions of its design. One example of this rare minting mistake sold for $9,650, while another in pristine mint state condition brought a staggering $12,200. These errors are highly prized because they're not only visually distinct but also extremely rare, products of human oversight during the minting process that slipped into circulation unnoticed. There are also broad strike errors, where the coin was struck without the retaining collar, causing it to expand outward. These coins look almost stretched or slightly larger than a standard penny. A beautiful 1976 broad strike error with full details realized $1,750 in a recent sale. Among the rarest and most valuable of all 1976 penny errors are those struck on completely different metals. During this period, leftover blanks from previous coin runs or test planchets sometimes made their way into the presses. A small number of 1976 pennies were struck on foreign coin planchets or experimental metal compositions, producing coins that don't match the usual weight or color. One particularly fascinating example was struck on an aluminum blank, something that wasn't even authorized for circulation, and it sold at auction for an astounding $56,300. However, the record-breaking 1976 penny that truly stunned collectors was an off-metal error struck on a copper-nickel planchet intended for a Jefferson nickel. The mistake resulted in a coin that weighed more and had a silvery tone, yet still showed Lincoln's portrait and date. When this rare piece appeared at heritage auctions, it sparked a bidding war that pushed its final sale price to an incredible $128,900. That coin alone transformed what most people consider loose change into a life-changing discovery. In addition to these dramatic errors, even subtle variations from this year can bring in high prices. For example, some 1976 pennies exhibit what's known as a filled mint mark, where grease or debris partially obscured the D of the Denver mint mark during striking. Though these are minor in comparison to double strikes or off-center errors, they can still fetch hundreds of dollars in high-grade condition. Another rare type includes die cracks and die breaks. These small raised lines or blobs of metal occur when the minting die begins to wear out. A 1976 Lincoln penny showing a die crack running across Lincoln's portrait sold for $680, while a dramatic die break extending into the field went $4.1. Two 50-dot proof coins from 1976, minted primarily in San Francisco, also carry their own appeal. These coins were specially struck with polished dies to achieve mirror-like surfaces and sharp details. Occasionally, however, even proofs were not immune to error. A 1976 S-proof penny with a double die reverse showing doubling on the Lincoln Memorial column sold for $2,900, and a cameo-finished proof struck slightly off-center realized $1,800 at auction. The coin market continues to reward patience and attention to detail. Collectors who take the time to examine their pocket change or inherited coin jars sometimes make surprising discoveries. Many of these rare 1976-era pennies were found by casual hobbyists who simply noticed something unusual: a misaligned rim, a missing mint mark, or an odd metallic tone. It's these small discoveries that make coin collecting such an exciting pursuit. For the 1976 Lincoln penny, condition is everything. Coins that are bright red with full luster and minimal wear tend to command the highest prices. Grading services like PCGS and NGC have certified several examples of these coins in mint state, with values soaring based on their rarity and eye appeal. Some perfectly preserved 1976 pennies with dramatic double strikes or off-metal features have sold for over $10,000, while the finest examples have reached well into five-figure territory. Even though billions of Lincoln pennies were struck in 1976, only a handful of these extraordinary errors survive, making them true treasures for serious collectors. Each one carries a story of how a small mechanical mistake or a moment of oversight at the mint turned into a historical artifact worth thousands. The legacy of the 1976 Lincoln 1-cent penny isn't just about its age or design. It's about the surprises it continues to reveal decades later. Whether it's a double die, off-center strike, or wrong planchet, these coins show that sometimes the smallest imperfections lead to the greatest rewards. The next time you sift through your change, pay attention to those details, because hidden among ordinary pennies could be one of these incredible pieces, perhaps even one valued between $56,300 and $128,900. That's the beauty of coin collecting. Sometimes, history, luck, and value come together in the most unexpected places, right in the palm of your hand. The 1979 Lincoln 1-cent coin might look like an ordinary penny at first glance, but for collectors and error hunters, it's one of those fascinating years filled with surprises that make coin collecting so rewarding. Most of these coins are only worth their face value of 1 cent, but a few incredibly rare error versions have sold for astonishing amounts at auctions, sometimes fetching between $52,300 and $122,650, depending on their condition, rarity, and the kind of error they display. It's the kind of story that keeps collectors checking every penny that passes through their hands, hoping to uncover the next valuable mistake. The Lincoln cent has been a staple of American coinage since 1909, when it was introduced to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse features Lincoln's portrait, while the reverse in 1979 still displayed the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. This was near the end of an era, as just a few years later the composition of the penny would change and new varieties would emerge. But even in 1979, the mint was producing billions of coins, and with that high volume came the inevitable production errors that would turn a few of these small copper coins into treasures. By 1979, Lincoln cents were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them a slightly heavier and richer tone compared to the lighter copper-plated zinc pennies that came later in 1982. Billions were struck across the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. But the massive production volume that year led to a number of fascinating minting errors, some of which became highly sought-after rarities. One of the most famous is the 1979 Lincoln cent double die obverse. This error occurs when the die used to strike the coin is impressed twice with slight misalignment, creating a doubled image on the design. Collectors often notice doubling in the words "Liberty" or "In God We Trust," or on the date itself. The doubling is most visible under magnification, and when it's crisp and well-centered, the coin's value can skyrocket. One such coin, graded MS67 by PCGS, sold for an impressive $19,750, while another near-perfect example sold for $22,300 at a Stack's Bowers auction. These coins are not easy to find in high grades, which is why collectors are willing to pay thousands for one that stands out. Another major error variety from that year is the off-center strike, a result of the coin being struck when not properly seated in the press. Depending on how off-center the design appears, values can range dramatically. A minor off-center might only be worth $100, but a dramatic 40 to 50% off-center strike showing a clear, full date can bring several $1,000s. One particularly striking 1979 penny that was about 60% off-center, yet still showed Lincoln's profile and the full date, sold for $8,500 in a 2020 auction. The broad strike error is another that fascinates collectors. In this case, the coin is struck without the collar that normally shapes its edge, causing it to spread out wider and flatter than normal. While it may look unusual, it's instantly recognizable as a mint error. A 1979 broad strike penny in mint state condition once sold for $1,700, and another with a slightly more dramatic spread reached $200. Then there's the clipped planchet error, which happens when the metal sheet used to cut out coin blanks overlaps slightly, resulting in a coin that's missing a curved piece of its edge. These clipped errors are highly collectible, especially when they are well-defined and authenticated by major grading companies. One beautiful 1979 Lincoln cent with a large curved clip sold for $3,250, while another with a double clip fetched $4,500. Proof that even small imperfections can add huge value. Among the rarest and most fascinating finds are the 1979 Lincoln cents struck on the wrong planchet. Occasionally, a blank meant for another coin, such as a dime or foreign coin, accidentally finds its way into the press. These off-metal strikes are exceedingly rare because quality control at the mint usually prevents such mistakes. But when one slips through, it can create an extraordinary collectible. One 1979 penny struck on a dime planchet, noticeably lighter and smaller with a silver-colored surface, sold for a stunning $52,300 at auction. Another, struck on a foreign planchet intended for a coin from Belize, brought in $61,000, proving just how desirable these minting anomalies can be. There are also examples of die cracks and cuts from 1979 that can be quite valuable. A cut occurs when part of the die breaks away, leaving a raised blob of metal on the coin's surface during striking. These are highly sought after because each cut is unique. No two are exactly alike. One 1979 Lincoln penny with a massive cut covering nearly one-third of the rim sold for $2,800, while another with smaller but multiple die cracks fetched $1,400. But perhaps the most exciting and valuable of all the 1979 Lincoln cent errors is the struck-through grease error combined with doubling. This error happens when grease or debris fills part of the die, preventing certain areas of the design from striking properly. The resulting coin shows weak or missing details in Lincoln's face or the lettering. While most struck-through errors are common and worth modest amounts, one 1979 example displaying both a struck-through error and visible doubling on the date shocked collectors when it sold for an astounding $122,650 at heritage auctions. Beyond these major varieties, even smaller or more subtle errors from 1979 can fetch impressive sums in top condition. Coins that display misaligned dies, partial collar strikes, or unusual toning can draw premium bids from dedicated collectors. The combination of rarity, historical interest, and visual appeal makes these coins special. Collectors also value 1979 proof pennies, particularly those from the San Francisco Mint bearing the S mint mark. That year, the mint transitioned between two different types of mint marks, some with a clear S and others with a filled S. The filled version looks as if the center of the S has been plugged or thickened. Proof coins with the clear mint mark are more common, while the filled S versions are scarcer and therefore more valuable. High-grade examples in deep cameo-proof condition have sold for $3,000 to $5,000, especially when free of spotting or haze. Another interesting aspect is how the market for these coins continues to evolve. As collectors become more educated about error varieties, the demand for verified, well-preserved examples only grows. Auction houses like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections have all featured 1979 error pennies in recent years, with many exceeding their pre-auction estimates. For example, in 2021, a stunning MS-67 red 1979 D Lincoln cent with a minor double die and brilliant toning realized $7,250, while another 1979 Philadelphia cent with both an off-metal planchet and die rotation error brought in $15,800. It's important to note that identifying genuine errors requires a careful eye. Many beginners mistake post-mint damage for mint errors, but true mint errors occur during the striking process. That's why authentication from PCGS or NGC can make all the difference, not just for peace of mind, but also for maximizing value at sale. What makes the 1979 Lincoln penny particularly intriguing is that it sits at a crossroads in coinage history. It represents one of the final years of the heavier copper composition before the mint transitioned to the lighter zinc-coated cents. This adds historical appeal, as collectors often prefer these older, solid copper coins for their superior striking quality and rich color. For many coin enthusiasts, finding a valuable 1979 Lincoln cent in circulation is a thrilling possibility. Stories continue to surface of people discovering rare double dies or off-center strikes in inherited coin jars or pocket change. It's a reminder that even now, decades later, treasures can still hide in the most ordinary places. The 1979 Lincoln 1-cent coin serves as proof that small things can hold big surprises. From double die obverse errors to off-metal strikes, from broad strikes to dramatic cuts, each variation tells a story of imperfection that transformed into rarity. And with auction records ranging from $52,300 to $122,650, these little copper coins have earned their place among the most valuable modern U.S. minting errors ever found at SO. The next time you come across a 1979 penny, take a closer look. Examine the details, check for doubling, and look for anything that seems out of place. That seemingly ordinary coin might just turn out to be a numismatic gem, one that connects history, chance, and incredible value, all in the palm of your hand.